We'll just get started here with a little bit of phthalo blue on the 2-inch brush. Just a little bit of the phthalo blue. I'm just tapping it into my brush, and it is giving me a nice distribution of color. Then I'll come up here. Now once again, this is covered with liquid white. This is with liquid clear. If you're wondering here about this streakiness, it's because I only put one coat on and I didn't put it on the best, but it'll be fine. So, well, you can just put in some phthalo blue. And as you're noticing, when I go over the black gesso, you can still see the gesso. That is because, as you may know or may not know, phthalo blue is a very transparent color. That means, like, say if you just have phthalo blue and put it on the black, it'll still look black. Now it's still going over that a touch because of the liquid white. White, such as titanium white, is usually very opaque, at least the white that I use. I'm not sure, like, say about zinc white or something like that, but titanium white is very opaque. So we can just kind of blend the sky however we want it. Doesn't really matter. Not going to be seeing too much of it, as you can kind of tell from the gesso. So now we will take a number 6 fan brush. This is, once again, a number 6 fan brush. I'm just making sure it's dry. I'm just rubbing it on a paper towel. And I'm just going to go into a little bit of titanium white. Just a little bit of that titanium white. Don't need very much of it. And then we're just going to make some simple. They're about probably the easiest clouds you can make. I'm going to tap them a little bit though to put a little bit of texture on them. But all we're pretty much doing is tapping kind of in a rocking pattern. So, and these actually don't require very much paint either. So if you're very stingy on paint, like I was when I was just a beginner. When I was a beginner, I was very stingy on paint. As I've progressed, so I've got less and less stingy. Now, a lot of times I actually can use too much paint, but that's okay. So a lot of times I use a little bit of the extra paint just to, like right now, I'm just putting a little extra on there just for some texture. People are always amazed if they look at your painting and they see texture. Now we can just take that same brush we use the sky. You can wipe it out a touch if you want. Doesn't really matter. Kind of just tap out the base of these. Do little swirls if you want. Just put some, don't want to touch the top though. And then just very, very lightly go over them like that. Now let's just give you some nice little clouds for the background. Now, something really cool you can do with them clouds if you'd like is take a little bit of the titanium white. Now you want this to be a very, very firm white. And I'm going to try something here. You can just put a little bit of texture on here. Just a little bit. Just like putting snow on a mountain. It's actually a little bit more difficult to do it this way. Mainly because, well, I'm right-handed. It's a little bit more awkward for me to go to the left, but there. And this is an even lighter touch. Just blend them out. Okay. Now, you can just take palette knife to do that. In the clouds, I was using number 5. Now I'm going to use a number 10. Take a little bit of Prussian blue, ivory black, Van Dyke brown, and a little bit of alizarin crimson. Not too much of the crimson. We don't quite want a purple mountain today, but it can be really cool to have a purple mountain. I'm going to add a touch of white to it though too, to make it a little bit not so dark. Get across, and then it'll give you your little roll of paint. Here's a good view of it. And you can come up here and just put in a little mountain shape. All you're looking for is that top edge, though. You could care less about what's happening underneath there, because we just can smooth it out with the brush. So this isn't a too much of a peaky mountain, as I would say. It's a little bit more round, but that's the look I'm going for. Now, if you really want it to be very peaky, you go right ahead. Do your mountain however you would like. Now we can just take that same 2-inch brush we've been using, take this and pull it down. Go right over that black gesso that you put on there. And here you can almost lay out your mountain. Just take it. All your highlights go one way, all your shadows go the other way. It also helps put on your first layer of mist at the bottom of your mountain. Now we can just take on that same knife, titanium white, and I want to take a touch, and I mean a touch of that mountain base color in there, just to dull it a touch, and I mean a touch. Now, once again, we have a roll of paint on our knife. You can come up here and with a very light touch, just put some snow on the mountain. Like so. Now, I'm not going to go all the way down to there because I know I'm going to want some trees down there. Just like that, you can put some snow in your mountain. Isn't it just fun? I know I find it fun. The main reason I started to paint actually was back in March of 2020, or I believe I actually started painting about the 2nd day of April last year. And it was just because, well, it was during homeschooling and all that stuff, and I decided I need something to do. And I've been watching Bob Ross for a little bit of time before that, and other painters on YouTube. But then I decided, that's what I want to do with my free time. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, to be honest here. And now, with this new series that I am doing, I can finally share it with you. Which makes me happy. I just had to mix up a little bit more paint. Now you may want it, but I personally don't. I don't really like this straight line we got there. So you can just come back here and adjust it as you go. Now I've already done a painting similar to this, so I'm able to do it pretty fast. When I first did this painting, it took me a good couple hours. But since I know the mixtures to use and all that stuff, I can do it for you guys in hopefully less than an hour. This one may be a little bit quicker, maybe almost. Hopefully around 45 minutes. I like to keep these between half hour and 45 minutes. That's easier since I know how to do them, but if you're doing this painting for your first time, like I did a little while ago, it'll probably take you a good couple hours, but that's fine, especially if you're learning. I know, the paintings took me quite a while when I was learning. Now over here, we can just put in almost a steeper cliff face, whatever you want to call it here. You don't just want all your mountains to be the same here. You see? Look at all that variation in that. That's what you want. Now, for our shadows, take some white and a little bit more of that base color. Then a touch of phthalo and Prussian blue, just a touch of those blues, a tiny touch of black. Just mix them up on your palette. Don't over mix them, leave them, I call it marbled. That just means like it isn't just one solid color, you have all the little streaks of color in there. Once again, little roll of paint. We can just come up here and put in some shadows. I'm actually gonna add a little bit more blue to that. It's a little bit too similar to my other colors. Just put it in there. Just put some shadows in here. And you always have some little shadows that are down here in your mountain. Like say, there's you can just say, there's a shadow there, maybe there's one there, there, wherever you want. That looks like a good spot for one. Just put it in. Wherever you want, just put it in. Now that, as you see, that all those angles of the mountain are going that way. All these angles are going to have to go this way. Once again, this is about the lightest touch you can imagine. Never put your finger up here in the blade. If you put your finger up here in the blade and try to do it, it just looks like you're icing a cake. Now, the reason I did that down there is because that'll be missed, so I just basically want the color down there. But yeah, never put your finger on the blade. So, but after you're done here, you can, I'm adding a little bit more white to my, pretty much just straight white with a tiny touch of blue into it. It adds another layer of highlights to it, and you can kind of clean up your edges. Like say you want it's a little bit too straight for you, you can just change it like that, just like that, very easily. It's easier than you think once you get experience. I'll be honest, and you can, since I've only completed I believe 163 paintings, it is more difficult than you think, especially when you're starting. But once you get a couple months, years of experience, it'll be a lot easier. Like I know it was very difficult for me when I started, but you know, everything is. Like if you just decide, hey, tomorrow I'm going to start playing lacrosse, and you've never played it before, it is going to be kind of difficult. Don't know why I picked lacrosse as the sport that I would use as an example, but who knows. Okay, so I'm going to take, this is the brush, this is my first ever 1-inch brush, by the way. This is the brush that I put the liquid white on with. Just a very, very old brush. It's only like a year old, but you know. So like, I didn't take near as good care of my brushes like this one when I first got them. Now, like, I've had this one for maybe 9 months, this one for maybe 6. Look at the difference. All that down there, that's the difference. Oh, that's all paint thinner that built up. I am definitely a lot more caring with my brushes now. Oh, by the way, I'm just tapping, following the same angles, tapping pretty lightly. But yeah, if you're nice to your brushes, they'll be nice to you back, and they'll create some very nice paintings for you. Alrighty. Now I'm gonna do a little housekeeping. You're not gonna see this. I'm pretty much just taking all the colors that I've got on here and just putting them on their own piles on my palette. Here's what my palette's looking like right now, by the way. Those are the 2 colors that I mixed. That was the base, that was the shadow. So yeah, eventually I hope to be able to show you my palette more often, like have a separate camera for it, but we're just focusing on in this first couple episodes. It might even be this series that you get we have a palette camera, but I'm really just focusing on showing you the painting up here. So I'm just taking some phthalo green, a little bit of Prussian blue, a little bit black, a little brown, a little sap green, a little alizarin crimson in here. Good deep green. Mix up a decent pile of it. I'm gonna put a decent amount of blue and black into it just to make sure it's nice and dark. Now the way I mix these, I pick it up and turn it over. You can also mix them by swirling like that. But 1, I like the sound of mixing this way. And 2, it's actually a lot nicer, say, if you want a marbled color. So I just wipe the knife off on a paper towel. And now, we are going to take a fan brush. This is a number 6 fan brush. Just a little bit. And I'm going to take it into some of that dark color. Actually, I've changed my mind. We can take the 1-inch brush we used, or the fan brush that we used for the mountains, as you see, or not the mountains, the clouds. Take a little bit of phthalo and Prussian blue down here, a little bit of the shadow color, and I'm just going to make some little hills back in here. Just some nice little hills. And you can just take the same brush you used to put the mist in the mountain. And I'm going to twirl some mist in for these. Then I just pulled up a little bit with my brush, and that kind of, I don't know if you can see it, made some little tree indications. Now I'm just adding a little bit of phthalo blue and alizarin crimson to that color, and we can just put in another layer here, just like so, just tap it in like that, nice and easy. Swirl some mist. Like that. I just pulled up some trees. Like that. Nice and easy. Then I'll take a little bit of the Prussian blue and alizarin crimson on my brush. make a nice dark lavender color. Then we can put one more layer in here. Just like this, nice and easy. Just like that, nice and easy. And then twirl some mist down here. And just pick up some trees on that. Blend out the bottom. Just like that. Now, we can go back to that fan brush that we were using. One of these days I'll hopefully have a video to show you how I take care of my brushes when I'm not using them. So I'm gonna hopefully record a lot of those over Easter break, especially that Friday, so I'm off school. Oh, and actually, there's something here. I got these indications back here of these trees. And I'm probably not gonna be able to paint any trees there. So we can just cover them up like that. Nice and easy. But you didn't think it was that easy to cover something up. Now, if you want to, you can just take the mountain here, a bit of highlight, a bit of highlight. I'm probably gonna have to get a little bit more white out while I'm doing this. Not white out as in the stuff to cover up mistakes. White out as in the stuff to get more white paint out. Okay? Okay. Now I'm just, once again, get that brush loaded full of that dark color. And then we can just it's a nice deep green color. I like the color I mixed. I never really do the same color mixtures from painting to painting. Sometimes, especially for these evergreens, just because I like the variety in them. Just put a couple in here, a little forest. Now, say I don't like that top, I just make it a little taller. And then just maybe like that. You can get creative here. You can say, oh, that's a family of trees. You got the dad, the mom, and the 2 kids. Maybe they've got a 3rd kid here. Your choice. Just throw them in there. Now, I know in my head that I've already done this. I'm gonna have a little river that comes through there. So I'm not gonna put any trees right there, but I can put one maybe right there. Let's put a couple little more in here. Just load that brush full. Maybe there's a couple little guys right back in here. You can just put them in there. Just put them in there. Now it's good to reload your brush between each tree. You can also, if you want, here, I'll do something a little bit different here. I did the one that I previously did. I'll take, okay, dry it off first. This is a round brush. Tap the top corner into that color, just the top corner. Look how you see, it's just, I think it's just the top corner of the brush. Get a close up with that. Top corner. Okay. You can just take that top corner and put in some little leafy bush tree thingies back here. Just using that top corner of the brush, just tap them in. Okay. Now before I get too far, I'm going to take that brush that I used for the hills and the clouds. See, I don't clean any brushes as I paint. So I try to use the same brushes. I also think, like, especially when you're beginning, like for the first couple months when you paint, I only had one of each brush. So and then I'll probably have a waterfall there. And then waterfall there. And then we can just paint that in. Might actually make that one a little bit smaller. There. I want that a little bit darker. I'm just going to take a little black and Prussian blue. A little bit of phthalo blue into there. Especially down here at the bottom. Actually, just everywhere. Okay, now I can take that brush, 2-inch brush I've been using, and tap it, and just what I'm doing here, I'm just tapping it into that color. I guess I can hold my palette as I paint for you guys. I'll try that for the rest of this painting. I'll be nice. Gives me more room on my table behind me too. So I'm just tapping into that color. Then we can just, it's a little bit easier to put in all this dark here, especially because, well, as you can plainly see, I'm just tapping into a little bit more of that. We have all that dark in there, so yeah, it makes it a lot easier. All you're looking for is some dark color and a little bit of texture. And just tap it in there. And I'm only going to bring that texture down to about right here. Look at that deep green we got. Now, I'm going to use this as the number 5 palette knife. Take a little bit of the white, dark sienna. This is what I'm saying though. When I say marbled, that's what I mean. You can see all the colors and a little bit of yellow ochre into that. But, or not yellow ochre. I mean, yeah, we can add a little yellow ochre into it. And a little bit of the Van Dyke Brown, yeah. Couldn't think of the name there. Just a little bit, little roll. And then we can just put a couple little trunk indications in here. wipe off the knife and we can just and you just scratched a few sticks in there. Now I can take another. I'm using 3 today, I'm sorry. Number 6 fan brush and go into a little bit of cadmium yellow, sap green. I want this to be pretty dark. So, and this is actually the 3rd episode of this series so far, so I thank you guys very much for your support so far. Now I want these highlights to be pretty dark. I think it helps show the distance, and evergreens just usually aren't that light of trees. Now I'll take I'll take a 1-inch brush, dip in a little bit of the liquid white if you want, then go into a little bit of that color, a little bit of that cad yellow, sap green, a little bit of the yellow ochre. If you want, you can actually add a little bit of phthalo blue. And all that paint in that brush actually rounds the one corner. So I can just, now I'm actually using a little bit more texture and a little bit less paint than I usually would. That's because these are a little bit more distant. That's the main reason I'm using a little bit less paint. I'm going to a little bit of yellow ochre. See, look at that. Look at that distance right there. Now we can take a 2-inch brush, go into a little bit of the liquid clear. And I'm using liquid clear because I don't want to make the color too much brighter. And I'm just going into a little bit of the yellows, a bit of sap green, a lot of paint down here. I'm going to just tap into it. So we're just putting in some little grass indications back here. Now there is another way to make grass, which I will show you. With that fan brush, just use that same fan brush that we were using, load it full of some of that color, and we can just put in some low grass. Don't let this brush slide while you're doing this. So that's about the worst thing that you can do here. there are two sides to the brush, so when you run out of paint on the one side, just go the other. Now I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something here. Thinking, okay. I'm going to take a number 3 fan brush, a little bit of liquid white, a little bit of titanium, a touch of blue into it, and then we can just we're just putting in our first little waterfall here. And our second one, the second one is a little bit bigger, as you see. So it's gonna have some more splashes. Then we can just make a bubbling stream here. Down here, because there's some little rocks under the water. And you see, yoop. We're just putting in, maybe there's a little bit low right there. Just tap in a little bit of stuff. Maybe there's a little thing down there. Just put them in. This is just a little bubbling stream now. You see how deep that paint is in that brush when we force it up. That white on the top is due to how deeply we load the brush. So, yeah, it works pretty well. Now we can take a number 5 knife. That's a number 3, but that was a number 3 fan brush. A little bit of Van Dyke brown on it. Put too much brown on it, actually. You can believe that. You can actually put too much paint on your knife. And we can just put in some little cliffs, because it's gotta be something to hold that water in, right? We don't just want it to flow out onto your floor. That wouldn't be very good. So. And I'm just going to add a little bit of black to my color. And then we can just come in here and put in some, I like to have some some rocky edges. Now I'm just taking a little bit of that same trunk color and white. Taking a little bit of it, knife here. Just come in here and put in some little, pay attention to the lay of the land here. Because, well, yeah. If you ever need to mix up a little bit more color, you can. You remember that mixture, I hope. Still using that little roll of paint. Alrighty, take that same brush that we've been using. I'm gonna use pretty much pure liquid white here, and then we can just add in a few little splashy things that come over them cliffs. Mainly down here though, because if you want, you can always put the cliffs in before. That's what some people do, I've seen. But make sure to try to make it look natural, like well, they've always been there, not that they've just been here past 5 minutes. So I guess I underestimated the amount of time this one would take. This one's gonna be pretty close to an hour, but it's got a lot of stuff in it, so that's okay. Like all the people that you watch on TV, usually they are confined to only a half hour to an hour time slot. I've got an unlimited time. No, not unlimited. My phone's only got so much battery and storage, but I mean my storage is pretty much full anyway with all the videos and pictures of paintings that I have. Now I'm going to add actually a little bit more liquid clear. This paint literally could run off my palette if I was holding it up. So that's kind of why I'm not holding it up currently, because this paint is super thin. Literally I barely touch and it just comes off. So we are just putting a little grass over them cliffs. Just put some grass over them cliffs. Just put it in. Be sure to follow the lay of the land here. That is what is honestly about the most important thing that you can do. Like if I set for some reason then had this going this way, it's just going to look off, won't it? Now you can gradually decrease your slope, say, if you want. But I don't mind this being too steep. I will decrease a little bit as we go over here though. And I'm just going to, here, I'll see if I can hold my palette up. I'm just tapping into that color and just gonna lay some stuff that comes down on the rocks. Just like that. Alrighty. So now I'm going to finally show you what all this is about over here. So we can just take on the palette, load that brush full of that color. I'm gonna add a little bit more black into it. Just tap it in there though. And just following pretty much the same shapes that you did with your gesso. Just put some paint on there. You can go right in front of your trees and we'll just have it come down right to there. Right about there. Just tapping it into your brush, and these don't even all, neither of these are fully on the canvas even. These are a couple of big trees, if I've seen some. I don't know if I've really ever seen trees bigger than this. Or I don't know if I've really ever painted either some trees bigger than this. Jeez whiz. There we go. Now, do something you'll probably call me crazy for doing, but you know, every artist has a little bit of crazy in them, in my opinion. Part of having a creative mind, I guess. So I'm just going to take, actually, yeah, I won't do that, never mind. But we can just paint in ourselves a little trunk here, just using that same highlight color we've been using. A bit more dark cyan in here maybe. Kind of scrub it in. There we go. Maybe we've got an arm on this tree. Maybe we got an arm, say, that comes like right there. Another one that comes right. This one's got a big trunk. We'll just say that that is a big trunk, and then now I'm actually going to use a 1-inch brush to do this. I'm going to try it with a 1-inch brush at least. And just tap ourselves in a couple of little leaves. It's honestly about my first time painting these trees. But I like the things I like about the gesso. Is one of the best things I've ever tried and used, in my opinion. And I hope to, in this series and some of the upcoming series, show you some really, really cool things that you can do with that gesso. It's honestly one of the most spectacular things an artist can use, in my opinion. So we're just, don't cover up all your dark. You see all that dark we still got in there? Just remember, half the leaves are on the back of the tree, which is that dark painting we've done. The other, and then you got the trunk, and the other half is on the side we're on. Just like that. Put some trees and leaves in there. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the liquid white to my color. And then we can just I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre into that. Now this, quite a lot of paint on my brush. But the reason I put some yellow ochre in there is because you don't want these to all be like the same color, same flavor, whatever you want to say. So just keep tapping them in there. Try not to get like too much of a stripe pattern, say. But it's always nice to leave some of the trunk showing, but I'm gonna actually fill that up a little bit there. That was a little bit too striped, the highlights. So there we go. Just put in a couple little and I'm going to take liquid white, quite a bit of the liquid white. And then we can put in some I'm actually going to put some of them bushes down here too. Then I can actually take a little bit more liquid white. The main reason I'm using so much is just because I want to get it lighter. Make sure it's lighter than this. There we go. We're just flavoring the grass a little bit more here. Like that. Then we can take a script liner brush. Take a little bit of the thin oil. I gotta open it actually. It's just a thin linseed oil. Make this color thin as water. I'm trying to do a little bit of different script liner brush today. Hopefully it works, eh? Okay. Yeah, that one doesn't really work near good. Go back to my normal one, which I figured would work, but anyway. And when I do this, it's my thin color, I twist it and then I draw it out to a sharp point. And you can just put a couple little sticks in here. Maybe there's one that just back in here. like that. Go down there. I don't know why I thought, hey, let's put a stick right there. It's pretty bright painting, but I like it. Now I'll just clean my script liner. So you could say this is a spring painting. I hope this idea just sprung to mind. And I hope you really enjoyed it. So I'll just take a little bit of thin oil and some red, thin it down, get on the brush, draw it out like I said. And then we can just come up here, bottom corner, as I always do, and sign it. Alrighty. That's the painting.